All right, so this is my 2024 divisional round power rankings slash conference championship preview. It's not going to be a very long video. We only got a few teams to talk about, but let's get started. So at number 8, we're going to have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They played pretty good in this game against the Detroit Lions, but ultimately, ended up losing 31 to 23. They were down 2 possessions going into the fourth quarter, ended up making it a little bit interesting towards the end, but they really didn't have too much of a chance for the majority of the second half. So that's why they're going to be down here at number 8. Number 7 is going to be the Houston Texans. They got absolutely blown out by the Baltimore Ravens. Still think they're better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they played a way better team in the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions. So even though their game was not very close compared to the Buccaneers game, I still think they're a better team. Number 6, we're going to have the Green Bay Packers here, who lost 24 to 21 versus the San Francisco 49ers. They actually played a really solid game, a lot closer than I expected them to be in this game. I did not think it would be a 3-point game, but they did end up losing in that game. Jordan Love was solid. He threw 2 touchdowns, but he also threw a couple interceptions in that game, including the game-sealing interception on their final drive. So that's not good to see out of Jordan Love, but, he still had a really good season. Number 5 here, we're going to have the Detroit Lions. So the first team here, the worst team I think that is still currently alive in the playoffs. They won 31-23 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course. They played really, really good in that game. Jared Goff had nearly 300 yards with 2 touchdowns. Gibbs had 100 yards and a touchdown. They also signed Zach Ertz. I think it would be a solid tight end depth piece there. Obviously, they have Laporta, who's dealing with minor injuries, but he should be able to play through them. But Zach Ertz is definitely a solid option for depth at least. He's definitely better than your backup tight end right now, who I believe is Brock Wright. So at least he gives you a little bit of another option on offense in his Super Bowl experience. Number 4 is going to be the Buffalo Bills. So of course they lost. I still think they'd be better than the Detroit Lions. I think if they would have beaten the Chiefs, I still would expect, I would still have higher chances for the Bills to win the Super Bowl than for the Detroit Lions. So that's why they're going to be put here at number 4. Only losing by 3 in a game where, your kicker had a chance to tie it up to the end of the game. It's obviously a tough L to see there for the Bills. It's Josh Allen only had like 180 passing yards and a touchdown, but he had a couple rushing touchdowns on top of that, plus another 70 rushing yards. He did really good. The main thing of concern here for the Bills going forward, Stephon Diggs only had 3 receptions for 21 yards in this game. He was like your 3rd or 4th leading receiver. He's supposed to be your best player, so I don't know. I heard he could potentially get traded this offseason. That would be interesting to see for the Bills because obviously they're trying to contend, and losing one of your best offensive weapons is not exactly going to be a good thing if you guys are trying to contend, but that's something to think about going into the offseason. At number 3, you're going to have the Kansas City Chiefs. They won 27-24 versus the Bills, so they're obviously ahead of the Bills. They should be ahead of the Lions, I think. I think they're better than the Lions right now. Definitely the better shot to win the Super Bowl, mostly because of all their experience. Patrick Mahomes in this game was pretty good. 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kelsey looked really good with 2 touchdowns and 75 yards himself. Marquez Valdes-Scantling actually caught a couple deep passes. He actually played pretty solid. I can't remember if there's a single drop in this game at all, so that's really good to see for those Chiefs wide receivers. And Isaiah Pacheco's been balling out. He had 100-plus yards and a touchdown himself. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to go. That's what I'm going over here with the Chiefs. They looked really, really good on offense. Their defense was okay. You let Josh Allen run a whole lot on you, which is definitely concerning going into the Ravens game where you got to face Lamar Jackson. But we'll talk more about the matchups here in a minute. Number 2, we got the 49ers. They won 24-21. I think they're definitely better than the Chiefs and Lions at this point. I had them ranked over Baltimore last week, but they just played definitely worse this week than Baltimore. Did a very less impressive win. Only a 3-point win versus a 7 seed, while Baltimore blew out the 4 seed. So it's definitely a worse performance in that category. Brock Purdy was pretty solid with 250 yards and a touchdown. McCaffrey had 128 yards and 2 touchdowns, so still played really, really good. You just let the Packers put up 24 points or 21 points. I feel like the Lions are definitely going to put up at least 21 points on you guys. You're going to have to score more offensively than you did in this game. Number one here, the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, they won 34-10 against the 4 seed, who beat their matchup by 30 plus points in round one. So you're definitely looking like the most dominant team in the NFL currently. So that's why you're going to be put out here at number one. Lamar Jackson had over 250 total yards with 2 touchdowns passing and 2 rushing touchdowns. So they were really, really good in that game on both sides of the ball. And then we're going to get into my game picks here. So, obviously there's only 2 games here. I got the Ravens beating the Chiefs. The Ravens are getting healthier. They got Marlon Humphreys probably to play. He hasn't played since December. Mark Andrews said he is playing, and he hasn't played since like November. So they're getting a really good key pieces on both sides of the ball back. And a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, they got Joe Thuney, who is doubtful to play with his pec strain. They said that he's going to do everything he can to be able to get out there on the field Sunday, but right now it's not looking great. They also got Mike Edwards, who had a concussion. He'll probably be playing. He has till Sunday morning to be able to determine fully whether or not he's going to play. So I would expect him to be playing, but without him, that definitely hurts their team as well. Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, neither one have played yet this playoffs, and the Chiefs have been doing just fine without them. But it does look like both of them are questionable to doubtful for this game as well. But I don't think that hurts the Chiefs too much, considering those guys were some of the main dudes that had problems dropping the ball in the regular season, and their current receiving core is not really having those problems right now. So I don't know if they necessarily need those guys back. Now for the Niners and Lions. Niners, they do have an injury concern with Deebo Samuel. He had a shoulder injury. They said he's supposed to be a limited participant in practice today on Thursday, but just because he's eliminated today does not mean he's going to be able to be full go by Sunday. But as of right now, they said the verdict is probably a 50-50 chance. I would lean towards he is going to play. I would assume he gets eliminated today, limited Friday. They don't do anything on Saturday, and then Sunday he'll be a game time decision probably listed officially on Saturday, and he would test it out pregame Sunday, and I would expect him to be able to go out there in that game and play. I don't think he's going to really sit out unless it's really, really severe, but at this point it doesn't look like a too severe of an injury. I would expect Deebo Samuel to be out there on the field on Sunday. Probably not 100%, so if he gets one hard hit to the shoulder, Lions should probably be scouting that out, trying to get a legal cheap shot on his shoulder just to, get him out of that game, because if he gets one big shot to that shoulder, that could potentially rule him out for the rest of that game. For the Lions, they didn't really have much injuries to think of here, I don't believe. They do have a couple offensive linemen. Jonah Jackson is going to be out. He was a pretty solid guard for them. He's going to be out. And they got Frank Ragnow, who's questionable, but he's listed as probable, so he should probably be able to get in that game. They're going to be without Jonah Jackson, like I said, but I think their offensive line has good enough depth on their team that shouldn't make too much of a difference, but it definitely hurts them a little bit. And then, of course, getting Zach Ertz on their team is definitely going to help you guys out a lot, potentially. So that's good to see there. But I am going to pick the Ravens over the Chiefs. I think they are the way better defense, honestly. The Chiefs have a really good defense, but I think the Ravens are the league leading in sacks and in turnovers. Our defense for the Chiefs, the main weakness is forcing turnovers, and the Ravens are the best at forcing turnovers in the entire league. So it's definitely a big difference there. Ravens, both teams have elite quarterbacks. Neither one of these teams necessarily has an elite receiving core. I mean, the Chiefs, of course, have Travis Kelce, who played like he was elite last game, but he has not been elite all season long, really. Ravens, they got Zay Flowers, who's probably comparable to Rashee Rice for the Chiefs, and then obviously Kelce and Mark Andrews are pretty comparable. Then the rest of those receiving cores, the Ravens probably win that because OBJ is certainly better than anybody else the Chiefs have on their receiving core. And then running backs, Chiefs probably got the edge there with Pacheco, but I think it's going to be a very interesting game. Probably be a lower scoring game than some people might think. They got two really, really good defenses here, so I think it should be a low scoring game. But honestly, with both of these quarterbacks, it might be a high scoring game. Really, I do not know exactly what to expect. I could see both teams barely getting the 20. I could see like a 20-17 or like 21-24 type of game here, or I could see it where both teams end up being in the 30s. But either way, I will pick the Ravens to win this one. No, it's definitely not a guarantee. When I go to this Niners and Lions game, um, a lot of it is going to depend on if Debo Samuel is going to play. I think if Debo plays, the Niners are winning this game. I think if Debo doesn't play, then it's definitely a conversation. But I'll still will lean the Niners even if Debo doesn't play. I'll just be a lot more hesitant on that. Niners certainly have the better receiving core, right? You know, not to say that the Lions receiving core is bad. They got Laporta to match Kittle, who's those are both really good tight ends. You got Amon Ra to match Ayuk or whatever. Those are both really good receivers. And then of course you got Debo. But if Debo doesn't play, then your receiving cores are practically the same level. Your Niners just I don't know. Your quarterbacks have been playing to the same level as well, basically. Um, running backs, obviously the Niners are going to win that one, but Jahmyr Gibbs is really good as well. And they got a better secondary running back with David Montgomery. Your defenses, your Niners probably the better overall defense, but the Lions still got dude like freaking Aiden Hutchinson to kind of match what Nick Bosa does. But the Niners definitely have the better secondary, which is going to probably be the difference maker in this game. If the Niners can force an interception here by Jared Goff, then they'll probably end up winning that game. So that's what I'm going to predict here is the Ravens and Niners to win these games, and then go on to the Super Bowl. So yeah, that is that is going to be my video. I did go 4-0 in my divisional round picks, so take that as you will. But the divisional round is pretty self-explanatory. All the obvious choices in my eyes won that game. It wasn't really too much debate there besides the Chiefs and Bills. But yeah, so that is going to be the video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to come back next week for an updated video, and make sure to check out my NBA videos as well.